a lot of people do keep running for that wall, even when they know that there's a problem, because it is so hard to say no. So they know they're heading there, but they don't know how to really hold their boundaries. And people are going to not be happy because it makes it harder for them. It is purely because they are worried for themselves.
Boundaries.
Mm,
Not just maintaining them, but for some of us, we have to create them.
yes.
We cannot continue to live a life that is peaceful, joyful, and fulfilling for everybody else and leave ourselves last.
Welcome to today's episode of Business Growth Lab. I'm your host, Samantha Riley, and today we're going to talk about living your life on fire. And the reason I have asked today's guest to join us is because for anyone that's been listening to this podcast for a while, you would know that we're in a 9-year in numerology, and that's all about endings. And what I'm seeing is that people are going through these journeys this year of things not working, wanting to burn things to the ground, actually burning things to the ground, and really feeling like everything that they've built needs to end in the way that they're currently doing it. So if this is you and you're ready to head into the 1 year with a whole heap of peace and joy and fulfillment, you will love today's episode. Lynita Mitchell Blackwell, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it, Samantha. Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Why are you so passionate about this topic? Was there something that happened in your life that made you understand that living life on fire is something that you really wanted to do?
Absolutely. So I've had a beautiful life. I was raised by parents who loved me, surrounded by a community that only wanted the best for me. But just like many of you, we were raised to believe that if we worked hard, we would be successful and we would live happily ever after. And for most of my life, Samantha, it worked, until it didn't. The working hard got me a scholarship to college, job with PricewaterhouseCoopers and Deloitte, law school, my own firm, but it also got me to working 18 and 20-hour days, sometimes not sleeping at all, excuse me, and saying yes when clearly the thing that I was saying yes to was not aligned with where I was at that point in life, or I just didn't have the capacity for it, but I was addicted to applause. I loved having people say, "Oh, Lynita, so happy to have you on my team. So happy you're here. What will we do without you?" And so it went on until literally one day my 6-year-old daughter found me passed out from exhaustion in the middle
Oh,
of the
wow.
floor. Yes. And she got her Disney blanket from her bed and put it on me and her little pillow and tucked it under my head. And she kissed me on the forehead and she said, "Good night, Mama." And the only thing that I had strength to do was to say, "Good night, baby." And what a lot of people don't talk about is there is this space between knowing that something needs to be done and actually doing it. So that was the place where I knew that life needed to change. But the point where I was willing to make the change didn't come for a couple more years when I was faced with a very horrible surgery for endometriosis, which for many of you, you might not know, is the uncontrolled growth of uterine cells outside of the uterus. And for 80% of women, does not affect them. They live long, prosperous lives, have children, etc. I was not in the 80%. I was in the 20. It had attached to my bowels, intestines, and had gone as far to reach up to my lungs.
Oh my goodness.
And it was horrible. And it had to be done in 2 separate surgeries. And I was placed on the same medication that cancer patients are placed on to try to burn off as much as possible so that they could preserve as much of my insides as possible. And the releases I had to sign, I am used to being on the other side of that table. I am a practicing attorney, 20 years. But there I was having to sign those pages, basically saying you need to get your affairs in order because you might not come out. And even if you do, you might not come out as the same person. And I committed. I said, "God, if you bring me through this, I'm going to make the change. I'm going to hire the people that I need to hire so that I can turn things around. And so that's what living life on fire meant for me. At that point, it was burning down my old thoughts, my own understanding about what success was, my own definition of joy and happiness, and creating a new life from those ashes so that I could be around to see my daughter graduate from high school. And she just started college in August. And so I made the cut, but it was brutal.
Mm.
And it's nothing that I would wish on anybody else. And so that's why I work to be as transparent and sometimes TMI sharer, as possible, because if that's what it takes for people to hear it and they turn things around so they don't have to go through it themselves, I'm happy to share that. I
Mm.
absolutely am.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that story. I personally don't think it's TMI because I think that there's people out there that are living that right now that will listen to that and go, that is exactly what I needed to hear to make a change. Ariana Huffington has got a very similar story, right? Of, passing out from being exhausted. Do you feel that people need to hit that wall to make a change?
No, we don't need to hit the wall to make the change. As you stated so eloquently, there are so many stories of people already hitting the wall. So why do you need to?
Yeah.
Right? I think what has to happen though is people have to understand that we're all human and we're all in this together and that we have shared experiences. And so the moment that we realize that this is a shared experience, then we can make the changes without going through the struggle and the pain.
Do you know, I think what you said then was so, so powerful because I think back, I had a very similar story back in around 2009, 2010, where I really hit that wall. And I felt so alone. I felt like no one else understood what I was going through. I felt like I couldn't share what I was going through. And what you just said then is such a game changer that there are people around that can help. And just by even sharing the experience, that opens the door for the right people to walk through. And that feeling of knowing that we're in a world that has got so many beautiful, loving people, so much community, that people sort of close their like to put their blinkers up to, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Because even though what we're in the middle of is very uncomfortable, it is absolutely excruciating. Let's tell it how
Mm.
it is.
Yeah, totally.
But it's familiar. And
Mm.
so we would rather stay in what is familiar because we know how to deal with that
Mm.
than to try and do something else. Because what happens if that fails too? What if it's worse, right? And so we will a lot of times stay in the same rinse cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until something extraordinary happens, truly extraordinary happens, that we say, okay, I have to make a change. Otherwise, the big goal will never get accomplished. For me, it was seeing my daughter graduate. For somebody else with their business, it might be having to close the doors if they don't make a
Mm.
change,
Mm. Mm-hmm. When you made the vow, like if I get through this, things are going to change. I want to ask about the journey. I'm going to make a huge assumption that there was a journey there because when we decide that we're going to make a change, it's never straightforward. It's never like, oh, we're going to do this new thing now and everything's going to go well. Can you talk to us about some of the things that you personally had to really deal with? You know, those demons that come up that go, you know what? It's actually easier to do the old way. What did you have to deal with?
Absolutely. So first, I'm going to talk about the time frame. This was not an overnight process. It took
Mm,
2 years.
mm.
That's number one. And number two, it was hiring a performance coach who also is an ordained minister, Reverend Rowena Silvera Beck, who has the woo-woo side, but is also a native of New York, and that lady does not play. and right and so she wasn't trying to hear excuses and she wasn't trying to hear quitting, And I needed that structure. And so she had me write down everything that I was involved in, everything that I was leading at the time. And Samantha, it was 2 pages, single space, front and back. So technically it was 4 pages. It
Mm-hmm.
was 4 pages. And so any of you who are listening to this, you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's crazy. I would never. Absolutely, you would. And let me tell you why. Because you think of one role that you hold as just being one role, but there are at least 6 parts of the role. I'll give you an example. If you are a parent, that is not one role, particularly if you have small children. You are also the cook, the cleaner, you are the doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are teaching them how to read, you're teaching them how to walk. That's already 5 roles right there. And we've not left the house yet.
Yeah, we haven't even got to cab driver.
No, we haven't even left the house yet.
Mm,
And if you think about every role that you're in where you're leading, if you're in a community organization, civic or religious, right? You are responsible for other people. You're talking to them every day. There is a mentoring as well as a coaching component to all of that, whether you put those titles on or take them on officially or not. And then there's the actual work that has to be done, whether you're doing it or somebody else. It has to be reviewed. You have to ensure that it makes the cut, right? And so I was having to do that in all of the areas of my life. And so we, one by one, eliminated almost all of them to the place where I was no longer running basically 5 different enterprises because at the time I had my law firm. I had my publishing house, which had 2 arms. It was books as well as magazines. And the magazines, we had 5. We also had the media company. Oh, I'm not done. We had the media company, which put on events such as the Soul Train. We would cover the Soul Train Music Awards. Plus, we had our own event, the Bowl Awards, every year. And then I also, through my firm, had an agency where I represented athletes. So, I had my fingers in a lot. Plus,
oh,
I was a wife, a mom, and both of my parents are older and required some assistance.
mm,
And I was running. I was training to run a marathon, but I had run several half marathons as well as 5Ks and 10Ks. And my social and civic organizations. I mean, I
no
I
wonder
was
you needed
every
that
woman.
Disney blanket. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, there is then the other part. So we made the list, but now, Samantha, we have to come out of all that.
Yeah,
And people don't tell you this, but there are some people who just don't want to hear no, that you can't do this anymore.
absolutely.
I did my best to wind down, to hand off, to train, but some people just turn blind eyes, deaf ears to all of it, to the point where I just finally had to just stop showing up, to stop
Mm,
responding to the calls and the emails because I've already told you no. I've already
mm,
told you I can't do this anymore. And people don't talk about that.
mm.
And we need to talk about that everybody is not going to be happy for you or pleased with your decision. And at the end of the day, they don't have to be. The
That's
person
exactly
that
right.
needs to, right? Exactly. The person who has to be pleased with the decision is you. Because guess what? You're the one that has to live with the consequences when those decisions are actually amazing or they wind up with you in the hospital on your deathbed. And I
Totally.
was like, I'm not going to purposefully, not purposefully wind up back here again.
Absolutely.
So yes, so that's it.
Yeah, it isn't easy to make that change. Hence why I asked, do people need to hit the wall? And just sort of bringing that together with what you were just talking about then, I think that a lot of people do keep running for that wall, even when they know that there's a problem, because it is so hard to say no. So they know they're heading there, but they don't know how to really hold their boundaries. They struggle to hold their boundaries, and people are going to not be happy because it makes it harder for them. It is purely because they are worried for themselves. Like, oh, Lanita's not going to do that anymore. That means I've got to do it. Now I have to deal with this problem instead of handing it off. So it's nothing about you and everything about them. However, when we've made that our persona and that's who we've been for so long, it is very, very difficult to say, no, well, this is who I'm going to be now. I'm going to be someone that does say no. I'm going to be someone that holds my boundaries strong. I'm going to be someone that takes care of my own health, mental health, physical health before other people. And that is when you've got a lifetime of acting a certain way, it is very difficult to change that.
It absolutely is. But you said something that was so key, Samantha, when you were talking about boundaries,
Mm,
not just maintaining them, but for some of us, we have to create them
yes.
because we have been raised to want to put a smile on someone else's face. That if they are pleased with us, then that is the pleasure of our life experience. But sometimes that's not possible. Not if we are going to maintain our own mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual sanity. We cannot continue to live a life that is peaceful, joyful, and fulfilling for everybody else and leave ourselves last. We have to put ourselves first. Self prioritization has been demonized. We have been told that that is selfish,
Mm,
but it is not. It is soul focused. And we have to get to the place where we start with ourselves, with building the wall and the beautiful garden within. And then we can share that with someone else.
totally. Now, I know that you've got a framework and it's around the live life on fire mindset. I'd love to go through this because I think that this gives people, well, a framework. I just said that, to be able to understand how do I put that line in the sand and cross it now? What do I need to do first? So let's start with the first step.
Okay, so the first thing is that we have to get to the place where we realize that boundaries have to be established. And we do that by establishing our own metric of what success is. And for me, I determined that it wasn't perfection, that it was actual excellence. The difference being that perfection is living up to somebody else's standard, somebody else's
Oh,
bar,
yeah.
right? And where excellence is, I set the standard, I set the bar. And that means that it can be a sliding scale because maybe one day I'm not feeling all that great and I can't get everything done. And so it is okay for me to put that on another day, another week, another year if I have to, because I realize that my own health and well being are tantamount to not just my success and well being, but that of the people that I love and those people who are dependent upon me. And
Mm,
so that's my daughter, that's my spouse, that's my parents, that's my business, my clients. But first I have to be strong. It has
mm,
to start there.
mm. I remember there was a speech. I think it was a commencement speech, but I'm not 100% sure. But Shonda Rhimes, I don't know if you've seen it. Shonda Rhimes talked about having those moments where she was trying to do everything, be the mom, be the, the writer, be the wife, the all the things. And that one of the biggest things that changed for her was just going, okay, well, I'm at home with my daughter. So work doesn't get any of me right now. Or I'm at work and my daughter can wait. Like I will see her in 2 hours, or I'll be home to cook the dinner soon. But she realized that she had no boundaries for all of the different parts of her life. So she was trying to hold all of it at the same time. And when I heard that speech, it was like a massive game changer for me to really understand that I didn't need to have the guilt for trying to look after the other people at the different times. It's like, when I'm doing this, I will do this and I will get to you in just a moment.
You know, it's interesting. She wound up giving that commencement speech because she had committed to a year of yes. Her book was called The Year of Yes. And
Okay.
right. And so the challenge to herself was whatever somebody asked her to do, she had to say yes. And so to give that commencement speech at her alma mater was a life challenge because interestingly, she does not like public speaking, even though she
Ah,
does it great.
she's
And
so good at it.
right, exactly. But she was so upset that came through. But that yes was for her. That yes wasn't to everybody else. And the fact that you were able to pick out the fact that it liberated her to list how she had established these boundaries and to be able to share that with other people of how they can do the same and still have a smile on her face that's genuine, that comes from within.
Mm-hmm.
That is the cat's meow. That's it.
Wow, I
That's
love
everything.
that. I did not know the background to her getting to that speech. I didn't even know she had that book. I'm going to look it up because that speech literally changed my perspective so much that it enabled me to make a lot of changes in my life where I realized I was trying to do all the things, to keep people happy. That's what good girls do, right? They try and keep everyone
That's
happy,
right.
but
That's right.
it's not sustainable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this leads into the second thing of unstretching yourself thin. You got to stop saying yes to everything, particularly those things that have nothing to do with your calling or your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And you always know because you have this feeling in the pit of your stomach. It's
Mm.
it's a it's a jab and a twist. If
Oh,
you feel a jab and a twist, you know that's a no. And you don't need the reason right now as to why it's a no. Your body is a perfect determinator of what is good for you. Now, you know if it's because you're being chicken and you
ah,
are afraid to take the next step
it's a
because
different feeling.
it's a different
Yeah.
feeling. It's a drop at the bottom that's near your root chakra. And you will feel that and you will know you're supposed to say yes, but you're scared.
Uh-huh.
This is a different kind of feeling that I'm talking about with that sharp and it's a twist. Go ahead and say no. And you can give a reason if you wish. I'm at the place where no is a complete sentence.
Mm.
It really is. When we're talking about burning down that old life, always having to give an explanation is part of blowing past boundaries. It's
Yes.
part of the good girl image of not
Mm.
wanting anybody to be upset with you, of being afraid that you'll be excluded from the group. Some groups you're supposed to be excluded from because they have nothing to do with where the creator is taking us.
Oh my
That's
God, I
just what it
love
is.
that. I love that so much. The way you articulated that was so beautiful. And I was just on a panel yesterday and we were talking about this exact subject because in human design, I'm a generator. And what I noticed is that my whole life, I've said yes to absolutely everything, absolutely everything. And that when I began my human design journey, I really had to listen to my gut and say, oh, that I know that feeling. That's a no. And but also not understanding what that no meant. And also the biggest thing for me, and you mentioned this really quickly, is that it actually upsets other people. And it was the fear of upsetting other people that had me always saying yes. And I distinctly, and I still to this day can remember exactly where I was sitting the first time I said no to someone. And logically it didn't make sense. It was someone that had come to me with the idea for a collaboration. On paper it looked like it was going to make a lot of money. But I had this feeling like this is not right. There's something not right about it. And I just said, look, I'm not saying it's a no forever, but right now it's a no. And he got so angry at me. And I tell you, it took all of my, like every cell in my body to just sit there and not speak and just think, well, this is his thing to deal with. I got off. I was crying because I felt like such a bitch. But it was the best thing I ever did because I know 100% that if we had have gone ahead with that, it would not have gone well. We would have ended up fighting. Like something would have gone really wrong with it because I knew that feeling. And now through practice of saying no, it's so much easier.
Yes. Yes, it is. And it gets to a place it almost becomes intoxicating.
Yeah, right.
And it
Exactly.
really does.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and we learn to guard our peace and our space. We
yeah.
really do.
The
Yeah.
reason I wanted to share it is because you touched on it like it was, oh, and some people are not going to be happy, but it's a huge thing. So I wanted to share that story because I wanted to really drive what you said home, that it can be tricky at the start because people are not going to be happy. But you're strong, you can do it.
That's right. And it leads it perfectly into the third one, which is focus on the people and not the petty.
Mm,
Whenever we get to a place of worldly success, and I need everyone to understand that I am not poo pooing on you making money, on you building fabulous partnerships and collaborations. I do them every day. I like having a roof over my head and a car to drive. In the society that we live in today, we make money, and that money buys us nice things.
mm-hmm,
And some of those nice things are actually necessities, right?
mm-hmm,
What I'm saying is, we cannot use those as a defining point, our self worth, of our well being, or that of other people. And sometimes when we encounter certain people, they can do that, and it creates a very petty persona about them. And so it's really important for us to remember that the person sitting across from us, they would treat whoever is sitting across from them the same way. Whoever is standing on that axe, they're going to get it. They're going to get the frustration, like you were talking about. They are going to get the mean things. They are going to get the stereotypes. But that is not who you are.
mm,
That's not what you were born to do or to come into agreement with, and you're definitely not aligned with that. And so as soon as you have that feeling, and for me it's heat. So if
mm,
I have this flash of heat, I know that this person is going through something, and the most that I am supposed to do is to extricate myself from that situation, send them blessings and prayers, and walk away.
mm,
If there is a coolness, then I know that after they have blown through everything that they have finished saying and doing, a lot of times that I do not agree with, then I know that there is some correction that needs to happen, and I am supposed to provide a service. Sometimes that service is legal, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's a little mixture of both. But spirit guides me through exactly what that person needs, and then I can go on with my life. I've fulfilled my purpose in that person's life. What that feeling is going to be like for you, only you will know. But you develop these bodily indicators
mm-hmm.
by focusing on self and spending the time in prayer, meditation, and doing the breathing and stretching your body and just sitting in silence and getting to know yourself again. Yesterday was the 11/11 portal,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people used it to manifest more
Mm-hmm.
prosperity, abundance, blessings. I used it to release, to forgive, to let go, so that there will be space and room for more.
Yes.
However you do it is fine, but I kind of like my approach a little better. but that but that's what works for me. So person, not petty. Get in, determine what's supposed to happen here, get it done quick, and move on.
Oh my goodness, you just delivered so much gold there. I love that you talked about the body giving us the answers because I remember the day that And again, this was on my human design journey when I heard someone say, all of your decisions should be made from the neck down. When I first heard that, I was
Mm.
like, what? That makes no sense to me. And now I get it. Like once you tune into your body and understand the cues that it's giving you, it's just another language. It's just like, oh yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, body, for doing that. So I love that. And I've never heard someone talking through that heat and that coolness. That's so awesome that you figured that out. That is just wow, so good. Love that.
And then the last is determining how you will define joy, peace, fulfillment for you. For me, joy is an inside job. There is nothing external that is going to make me joyful. Happy, yes, but not joyful.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference for me is that since happiness is externally determined, that's I'm happy being on your podcast. I'm happy the sun is out and I can enjoy a walk outside. But then that means the exact opposite, the converse is true too. So I'm going to feel let down when we finish up today. Or if the sun is not shining and it's raining outside, now I'm not all that great. Whereas joy is the appreciation, the gratitude, and the thanksgiving for even having the opportunity to experience those things. I am truly joyful to have had this opportunity with you today, Samantha. I am joyful that I had the opportunity to go outside and walk today because there was a time to just be.
Mm-hmm.
For fulfillment, I can create as many joyful experiences as I want because those are generating from my heart, from
Mm.
my mind, from my soul. I'm not relying on somebody else to do that for me. And peace comes because no matter what you do, I understand I am 100% in control of me and my responses and my reactions. Now, people sometimes push back on that because they come up with some, in my mind, outlandish scenario with someone doing something exceptionally bad, some exceptionally evil. Well, of course, you're not going to be happy, and it is going to be harder to be joyful if someone falsely imprisons you, right? For a
Mm-hmm.
crime you
Mm-hmm.
did not commit.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But even in those times, once you can get stabilized, there can still be joy. And I need you to understand that I didn't say that there was not a demand for justice, that
Mm-hmm.
there would not be anger, that there would not be action that needed to be taken. Those things absolutely would happen. But there is still a place in your heart that's joyful for whatever the circumstance is, where you can be grateful, where you can be thankful, where you can appreciate.
Mm. Mm.
Because that's based on you, not on someone else.
Totally. Totally. We can't change how someone else reacts, but we can change or be in control of how we react.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. You also talk about health being your wealth. Can you share a little bit about what that means to you in your day-to-day life?
Absolutely. So, bottom line is if we are not in a place where we can physically appreciate, it's going to be very difficult for us to enjoy the fruits of our labor. In my law practice, I work with a number of people who have acquired exceptional portfolios, real estate, cash, stocks, etc. But because they burn themselves to the ground physically, they have all these health ailments, and it is very difficult to enjoy them, number one. Number two, they did not spend a whole lot of time with family or friends, colleagues, partners, work collaborators, yes, but not the people who would ultimately be there when all of that went away and when they became compromised to a place where they really needed someone to take care of them and look in after them. And so they wound up in nursing homes, assisted living facilities, or having in-home help come in. And they all to the person, except for one person in these years, they really were confused about how they wound up here. And so they might have had financial prosperity and abundance, but emotional, spiritual, and mental
Mm,
clarity, they were impoverished.
mm,
And so, what I would say when we're talking about health being our wealth, it's not just your physical wealth, it's also mental, emotional, as well as spiritual.
mm.
And once we get those aligned, then we can have the manifestation of the things that we say we want. And our external environment will reflect our internal environment.
Oh, yes, loving it. I love it so much. For people that have loved this conversation and they're feeling just so positive about this, like I've just loved chatting with you. Just, I have such a beautiful feeling in my body now. Where can they stay connected with you?
If you come to my website, LynitaMitchellBlackwell.com, you can join my email list for free. And if you mention Samantha's podcast, I have a free gift for you. But you have to mention this podcast. And then you'll be able to also follow me on social. For the most part, I follow back, unless I can't tell because you're not using a picture, that you're not crazy.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what's going on with you as well. I truly believe in community.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Lynita, it has been so lovely to chat with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. I don't think they were TMI at all. I think that sharing these stories is so powerful because there's someone out there right now that needed to hear that. So thank you so much.
For having me, Sam. Samantha, I really appreciate it.